All right, let's dive right into an explainer of shadow and philosophy. Today, we're stepping inside the text of a truly grim, dark, gothic fable called The Architect of Ash and the Jester's Ink. Now, this isn't just your standard analysis. Think of this as your front row seat to a dramatic, spoken word theatrical performance. We are going to witness the ultimate stagnation of the human spirit, completely clashing against the chaotic, unscripted rebellion of hope.
Welcome to the Twilight City. I want you to literally picture this stage direction in your mind. Satan, the architect of Ash, remains completely unmoving. He's seated upon a throne of cold soot. And his voice, it isn't some fiery, booming roar. It's just this heavy, exhausting sigh of stagnant air. He asks the darkness around him, "Does anything still stir, stir, stir?" And he asks this because, in his domain, the void is finally full.
You see, this architect is absolutely not your typical fiery Punisher wielding a pitchfork. He's a philosophical terror. He is the literal embodiment of the end of all human striving. He represents the last man, the spirit of terminal mediocrity that's just anchored in a really wretched kind of contentment. It's a state where humanity has completely and utterly forgotten how to yearn for the stars. So, here is the absolute core philosophical clash of this infernal council. On one side, you have humanity's eternal striving, and on the other, the architect's terminal mediocrity. The architect basically wants to nail the human soul to a permanent floor of absolute certainty. Think about it. If the first step of life is identical to the last step, why strive at all? He's mocking any ghost of a dying fire, believing that silence is the only real truth left. Okay, moving on to Section 1, Heralds of the Long Tiredness. Now, a static king obviously requires messengers, right? Let's look at the motivations of his heralds, Lucifer and Beelzebub. They don't torture the flesh. Instead, they actively dismantle human ambition. Lucifer brings a light, but it only illuminates dust. Beelzebub brings a stagnant air where flies just grow fat feeding on dying dreams. Together, they act as these static moral cathedrals, completely stripping away our individual features and dissolving the race into a faceless gray when.
Listen to this chilling spoken word promise delivered by Lucifer Morningstar. Men see the peak, and then they see the rope. Rope, rope. Wow. He ensures that the ambition to climb just rots right there in place. He's delivering a promise of the final dusk, where moving forward is nothing but a hollow trust. And that leads us right into the soothsayer's ultimate weapon, which is called the long tiredness. Make no mistake, this is not pain. It is a suffocating safety. It's the void being held entirely breathless. Under this curse, men no longer build, they just rot. The human race is effectively lulled into a sleep from which they will never, ever wake. A complete paralysis of the human will.
Let's dive into Section 2, the reverse metamorphosis. Let's set the stage again. Picture this. Mephistopheles steps forward from the shadows, and he gives this slow, mocking bow. He looks down at a struggling human specimen named Faust, and he whispers to the throne, "Let me drape him in a velvet gloom." He's offering Satan a twisted plot to prove that all of this human thrashing about for truth is completely pointless. So Mephistopheles actually plots out this reverse metamorphosis. Instead of a person growing stronger, the striving soul is systematically broken down. First, the grand ideal of the overman is shattered and revealed to be just a glittering discarded lie. Then, the soul is dragged out into a barren desert, right past the weeping lion, and left exactly where the broken camel sleeps. He's doing this to prove that kings and tired slaves all eventually rot in the exact same indifferent tomb. What he's really after here is the ultimate collapse. He wants to take the noble, fiery will to power, that fundamental drive that pushes humanity forward, and totally invert it into a terminal, wretched will to nap. He literally wants Faust to look at the universe, decide that being a man was just too much of a chore, and willingly embrace the sweet, indifferent void. The tools this instigator uses are entirely psychological. He shows Faust the soothsayer's glass, which acts as a mirror of absolute futility. He convinces him to trade his blazing morning star of ambition for just fleeting morning dew. And he makes the heavy earth beneath his feet feel sweet, but only because it represents the grave. It's a calculated move to prove that despite all our strange, grand dreams, the world is suffocatingly narrow.
All right, bringing us to our final act, Section 3, The Jester's Living Ink. Just when the void seems like it's completely victorious, our protagonists arrive as this vital, necessary rupture. The spirit siblings and the Wanderer traverse high time and literally crash the infernal stage. They confront this static deity head-on, taking what was supposed to be a tragedy of inevitable doom and transforming it into a grand, explosive rebellion of unscripted hope.
Check out the tactics of this rebellion, because it's brilliant. The wit doesn't just run up and attack with a sword. No, the wit circles the static deity, exposing him. He shows everyone that Satan's ashen silence isn't real power at all. It's just papier-mâché vanity held together by pure fear. I mean, look at his trembling hands. Meanwhile, the hunger literally inhales the desert of the long tiredness, devouring those infernal blueprints and totally deconstructing the logic of the void.
And just like that, a single hiccup in the soothsayer's rhythm completely smudges the ash of the throne. The entire narrative flips on its head. What was meticulously engineered to be this ultimate tragedy of the void is suddenly flipped into a grand, unscripted comedy. The strict, breathless architecture of the Twilight City is shattered into pieces. Raising his wooden jester's wand, the Wanderer stares right down at the architect and delivers this amazing counterscript. Even in the heart of the desert, the ink remains wet, wet, wet. He proves right to the face of apathy that the suffocating safety of the void is simply no match for active hope. The script isn't permanently baked into cold soot. The ink is still alive, and we are the ones holding the pen. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at your own life through the lens of this Gothic fable. The heralds of apathy are everywhere around us, constantly offering the comfortable will to nap. When you are confronted with the temptation of terminal mediocrity, when the world actively tries to give you the long tiredness, what are you going to do? Will you just rot in place? Or will you pick up the wand, realize your ink is still wet, and rewrite the script of ash?